everyone, you're watching The Last Word with me, Marya Shakil. Several opposition leaders have accused the central government of trying to hack their phones after receiving warning messages from Apple. The Apple's alert said it believed the recipient was being targeted by state-sponsored attackers. Of course, it did not really specify who the attackers could be. The government hit back with ministers dismissing the charges, also calling it destructive politics and adding that these MPs are compulsive critics of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Well, it did not really stop there. The tech giant in question later issued a statement saying it does not attribute the notifications to any specific state-sponsored attacker and that some notifications may be false alarms. But this alert has raised multiple alarms and questions. We'll try and decode those questions with experts on the show. But first, here's what happened today.
My name was also there.
A political war over these alerts from Apple shared by opposition MPs warning of state-sponsored attackers trying to hack their phones, just days before crucial state polls being seen as the semi-finals for the 2024 general election. Within hours, the government hit back, saying an inquiry has been ordered and calling opposition leaders compulsive critics doing destructive politics.
The last Pegasus inquiry where, my name was also there. That sort of disappeared, right? So that tells you the situation in the country. Our job as opposition is to make people understand what is going on.
तो बड़े दुख की बात है आज हमारे डेमोक्रेसी में, लोकतंत्र में आजादी और आपकी प्राइवेसी को भी ये किस लिए उसको खत्म करना चाहते हैं।
ये लोग देश की उन्नति को, देश की प्रगति को देख नहीं सकते, पचा नहीं सकते। जिस तरह का कंपल्सिव क्रिटिक्स आरोप लगाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं वैसा कुछ भी नहीं है। तो साथियों, जो लोग देश की प्रगति को पचा नहीं पा रहे, जो लोग देश को ऊपर बढ़ते हुए देख नहीं सकते, वो लोग डिस्ट्रैक्शन पॉलिटिक्स कर रहे हैं।
Earlier today, Apple responded to the MP's allegations, saying it does not attribute the notifications to any specific state-sponsored attacker, and that some notifications may be false alarms. A second government minister, Junior IT Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar, tweeted these questions to Apple, asking it to clarify why these notifications were sent, despite Apple's claims of being secure and privacy compliant.
They must explain whether their platforms and devices are really secure or not.
The government says it is committed to protecting the privacy of all citizens. Mir Rafe, Bureau Report, NDTV.
On Last Word today, we ask Apple alert row, politics or real threat? Joining me on the show, N.S. Napinai is an advocate at the Supreme Court as well as the founder of Cyber Sathi Foundation. We have Brijesh Singh, who is a cyber and tech expert. He's also ADG in Maharashtra Police, currently working as Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Ms. Napinai, beginning with you, explain to us these alerts. What do they really mean, and can these be so specific like state-sponsored?
In fact, that is the intriguing part of this situation, because at best, using technology, you can identify that an attack may have been launched and that it has either been thwarted or it has been successful, and then you have done a bounce back or a resilience process. But to have alerts sent out with such specificity appears to be only predicated on the aspect that Apple believes that certain kinds of threat scenarios are very expensive and are difficult to develop and therefore could be state-sponsored. And I personally feel, and I'm just wearing my lawyer hat here, to say that this is nothing but speculation. So you can't make accusations based only on speculation. Today, with the details on hand, at best you can say probably there have been some attempts of, threats or attacks on certain devices. And possibly either because of that or because of the false alarms that Apple itself seems to have set out, there could have been these notifications. But beyond that, to create attribution based on these notifications would be stretching things too far. We would need much more specific proof in terms of where these attacks have emanated and who has launched them for any further accusation to be made.
Okay, since you're making that point about alerts, I want to understand from you, Brijesh Singh, Apple has said that these alerts were sent to individuals in 150 countries. While we are yet to know the profile of those in other countries, what's certainly worrying here is that why are these alerts being received only by MPs who are in opposition or those who are seen as critics of the government?
Attribution is the most difficult thing in cyberspace. And if you actually look at mobile malware threat actors and so-called state-sponsored actors, you would find that there's a lot of expertise in Pakistan, in China, in North Korea, and some other countries about mobile malware and mobile-specific attacks. Now, there are two scenarios. If the attacks were successful, then Apple should seriously have a look at its own security practices. If they were not successful, then it's a mere speculation, because every device out there is bound to be attacked. Cyberspace is open for attackers. They are all the time trying to get into devices. Now, state-sponsored attackers have been listed, let's say by MITRE, let's say by all the other, companies which do cybersecurity. And you would find that there are foreign threat actors, foreign states, which are constantly trying to get into the phones of important people everywhere. Now, these alerts have been sent in 150 countries. Apart from that, there may be many people who may have not reported to media. There may be some people who may be wanting to come out and talk to media and say that they have received such an alert. This alert just means that there must have been a malware which probably Apple detected and it mitigated. So it's good that they are alerting their users. However, Apple should strengthen its security practices. Apart from that, this is an attempt to hack. Now, once Apple has noted an attempt to hack, then it is bounden upon them to report it to police.
Here, the opposition says that it is the government which is snooping on their electronic device. That's the charge that is coming in from the government, from the opposition leaders.
State-sponsored doesn't mean that this is too much of an imagination, It's too much of flight of fancy to imagine that which state-sponsored. In fact, if you look at that's what I was saying, that if you look at the capabilities of state actors across the world, you would find that India doesn't feature anywhere. So India is not known for something like this. It's the other countries. So in fact, they should be more worried about, let's say, China or Pakistan or any other state snooping upon them, then presuming that it's some other country. And it would be preposterous to assume that it's your own country. Okay. And then it's incumbent upon Apple that this is an attempt to hack. It's a crime in India. They should come and report to police with evidence.
Yes, if anything, Napinai, the Apple statement has raised more questions than answers, I would say, because they are also saying that there could be fake alarms. But at the same time, if you look at the statement, it doesn't really rule out or tell us much. So my question is, what are the safeguards legally present for users who claim to have received these alerts?
First and foremost, the underlying principle in law is, if you're going to subject somebody to surveillance, you have to comply with the rules and regulations that have been laid down. So it's not like India cannot undertake surveillance at all, but it can undertake surveillance subject to the checks and balances which laws have laid down. The second aspect of it is that if Apple is going to declare a particular threat scenario in a specific manner, it has to be either precise to stand its ground to say, we are very certain that this is a state actor and therefore we are saying this, or it will have to modify its notification to say that you have been subjected to a threat and leave it at that. To add by themselves a specificity in terms of who could have committed the a violation or attempted a violation, and then to go on to say it could either be a false alarm or it could be an unspecified state actor, and to leave it open-ended just raises this undue, it goes beyond speculation, Marya. It actually then results in the kind of fracas that you're seeing now in terms of creating a playground for undue accusations and things. I'm not here saying whether somebody has been subjected to or not. All I'm saying is that Apple has to be very precise in terms of explicitly setting out how and in what manner it is able to make a statement so emphatically that it is a state actor in the first place.
Yes.
Secondly, what is the attribution it is able to do and why is it not able to do more than that? So these are all issues that it is bound to explain, and considering that now these accusations have come up, there is no other option but to initiate a probe, and Apple would necessarily have to participate in the probe and provide the necessary data to substantiate even the very first aspect of what they are doing, which is having a notification which makes such an emphatic statement. So these are issues that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
And also whether Apple will be able to trace where the genesis of these threat scenarios have come from.
And since, opposition says that this is snooping, I want to understand from you, Brijesh Singh, if this is not snooping, then how should this be seen?
No, snooping, basically when we talk about surveillance, there is a due process for surveillance that you have to have, there is a proper regime in which, you have to give justification. Then even all those transcripts are put before a committee, and even that committee has the leader of opposition in that. So it's a very transparent and open regime wherein you have to justify what you were surveilling anybody for, and records of that are kept. Now, anything like this, mobile malware is pure hacking, and there is no legal justification or procedure for this. Now, having said that, if Apple is making such an allegation, then it's the bounden duty of Apple to come forward and give evidence for that. You cannot just, shoot in the air like this and say that it's a state-sponsored. And now it's very essential to know which state, if there is a foreign actor which is trying to destabilize and create disinformation in my country, then it becomes a matter of national security, and this needs to be probed, and Apple needs to participate in this probe and come forward and give its evidence.
Okay, so the onus is now on Apple. Is that what you feel as well, Napinai? That because they issued those alerts, they must come clean as to which state-specific, attack it was?
In effect, it would amount to that, because if Apple had merely issued a threat notice to me, that becomes a warning to me and a kind of, spotlighting a problem which either it is showing me that it has addressed or it's asking me to address it.
No, but the manufacturer here, Napinai, is also saying that it is possible that some Apple threat notifications may be false alarms. So, I mean, it's a very brief statement, which certainly looks like that it has been drawn from its technical support page, where they are talking about it, that state-sponsored attackers, they also say that state-sponsored attackers tend to be very well funded and sophisticated, and detecting such attacks relies on threat intelligence signals that are often imperfect and incomplete. So it's even more complicated what their statement is.
See, ultimately, if you look at the basis on which Apple is making all these claims, be it from their website or a statement they may or may not have issued, but the bottom line is this: they are merely using the technology used as the basis to claim that they can reach a conclusion that it is state-sponsored. So, if your basic premise is wrong, then your conclusion is likely to be wrong too. So, whether their basic premise is predicated on irrefutable, I would put it as irrefutable proof that it cannot be anyone else except a state actor, to make a statement like that in the notification itself becomes that, thing spark to the powder keg.
Okay, but
that's what we usually say in law, that, if you add that spark which can unnecessarily give rise to a conflagration, then that becomes a problem.
Yes.
So therefore, it is definitely on Apple to first mitigate this onus.
Yeah, but it has led to a lot of hullabaloo and questions being raised on the government. It has divided the Indian politics down the middle clearly now. So I want to understand from you, Brijesh Singh, a quick word on that. And before I wrap up this discussion, that should it be seen the way it is being seen, that it is government versus opposition right now?
Absolutely not. There's nothing to say, nothing on record to say like that. It's a claim made by Apple, which they need to substantiate. And if they are putting so many ifs and buts, then first of all, they need to come and specify. And state-sponsored means there are so many countries, there are hundreds of countries. So which state that Apple should specify? The onus is upon Apple. And any kind of political hullabaloo on this is absolutely a figment of imagination.
All right. Ms. Napinai and Brijesh Singh, really appreciate your time.